The Stoics were philosophers, yes, but philosophers who were leaders in the real world. This idea of courage and justice and temperance and wisdom, these are the virtues not just of good human beings, these are the virtues of good leaders. Not all Stoics are leaders, but I think all leaders have to be Stoics. And I think when you look historically, all great leaders were Stoic. If not explicitly so, then there were parts of their personality when it really counted that were Stoic. You have to be. What we're going to talk about today is virtue and leadership and how Stoicism can make you a better leader. Courage, of course, is a key Stoic virtue for a reason. Hemingway says that courage is grace under pressure. I think what we see in the Stoics is, and this is where the emotional regulation comes in, the ability to be cool under stress and pressure and criticism and mistakes and high pressure situations, to push out the destructive emotions, to be objective, to be rational. Why does this matter? Because it helps us when we're in charge, when people are looking up to us. There's a saying in military circles that calm is contagious. A leader has to be calm and collected and cool, because if they're not, why would the people underneath them be? A leader without courage is not much of a leader at all, right? If we talk about calm being contagious, I think certainly courage is contagious as well. If a leader doesn't believe that something is possible, if a leader is afraid of something, why would anyone in the company or the organization or the regiment, why would they believe that it's possible? Why would they be willing to put themselves in danger? But of course, by courage, we don't just mean physical courage, although that's important. We also mean moral courage, the courage to speak truth, the courage to make hard decisions, the courage to ignore what other people are saying or thinking in the moment, the courage to stand up for and to things that need to be stood up for and to. If there is no courage in the leadership of your company, and I've worked for companies that have lacked courage, and I've worked for people who were courageous, one makes you want to go through anything and do anything to succeed. The other makes you go, what's the point? The other makes you almost ashamed to be associated with it. Temperance, this virtue of temperance is key for the Stoics. Why? Because without temperance, the success or the power or the influence or the authority that the leader has quickly gets the best of them. In my book, Ego is the Enemy, I wrote that as American Apparel, a company I'd long worked at and been a consultant at, sort of tore itself to pieces. And a lack of temperance, a lack of restraint was at the key of so many of the failures of that company. Without controls inside a company, you spend too much money, you spend money on the wrong things, there's not accountability, that a company sort of swings from project to project or moment to moment or temptation to temptation or crisis to crisis. Jim Collins talks about the undisciplined pursuit of more in the book, How the Mighty Fall. The undisciplined pursuit of more is what tears companies apart. It's, Machiavelli talks about the most dangerous moment for an army or for a general is right after victory. Because this is when we overreach. This is through lack of discipline, lack of control, that the army falls apart, that the goals fall apart, that the strategic thinking falls apart. So a leader has to be moderate. Moderation in all things, as the Oracle of Delphi tells us. Yes, we want to be successful. Yes, we're trying to grow. Yes, we want to grow quickly. But without moderation, without restraint, without self-discipline, we tear ourselves to pieces. And I've seen this firsthand. It's not just enough to be ambitious. It's not just enough to be talented. You have to be wise. This is what Truman is saying. He's saying not all readers are leaders, but all leaders have to be readers. If you're not learning about what you're doing, if you go, oh, I'm just naturally smart, or oh, I just learn by trial and error, you're taking an immense and unnecessary expense upon yourself. This is what General Mattis is saying to leaders when he talks about functional illiteracy. He says, you can't be filling body bags as a commander of troops as you figure it out as you go along. To not avail yourself to that knowledge is beyond stupid and selfish and arrogant and unconscionable, really, in the military domain, because you're gambling with people's lives. And so a leader has to be wise. There's this story of Marcus Aurelius well into his reign, And he's seen leaving the palace with like some books and tablets. And his friend says, "Where are you going?" And he says, "I am off to see Sextus the philosopher to learn that which I do not yet know." And his friend is amazed. He exclaims something like, "Even as an old man, the emperor is still taking up his tablets and books and going to school." Great leaders have a hunger to learn. They never stop learning. They're reading to lead, and they're always trying to get better. They have mentors. They ask questions. They're not afraid to say, "I don't know." They're not afraid to bring in experts. This is something Marcus Aurelius says he learns from Antoninus, his stepfather, how to rely on experts, how to get their opinion, how to evaluate their opinion. So a Stoic has to be a lover of wisdom, has to remain a student, and has to continue to hunger to learn about every facet of what they do and every facet of their industry. A leader who only makes themselves money, a leader who becomes successful at the expense of, let's say, the environment or through some unethical means or abuse or exploitation of the people underneath them, what kind of leader is this? So the virtue of justice is also a really key Stoic virtue here. How does one lead from a place of justice, from a place of selflessness, from a place of fairness, from a place of purpose? In Ego is Enemy, I talk about, I don't want a passionate leader. I want a purpose-driven leader. I want a leader who's motivated by something bigger than themselves, by something bigger than their own glorification or success. I want someone who's leading because they have something to lead for. They have something that actually makes the world a better place. One of the most interesting quotes from Marcus Aurelius about leadership is where he says, "Escape the stain of imperialization." He says a leader can't be changed by their success, by their power, that this is really important. And I think we see that all too often. We have the expression, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Why is Marcus the exception to that? I think it's the philosophy. I think it's his active practice of courage and justice and wisdom and temperance. He's actively trying to hold himself to a high standard, and he's conscious of the fact that the people who went before him were led astray. They were ruined by the position, and he doesn't want that. He doesn't want to be stained purple, because the Roman emperor wears a purple cloak. So for Marcus, he wanted to see himself objectively and clearly. He didn't want to be changed by his success, and neither can you. And whatever it is, don't be changed by your position. If any, the only change that you should accept is that the success or power makes you better as a person. The Stoics were leaders. They had to be. They weren't always flawless leaders. No leader is perfect, but they did their best. And they understood ultimately that the purpose of philosophy was to help them contribute more to Rome, to their family, to their country, to their city. Marcus Aurelius says, the fruit of this life is good character and acts for the common good. To me, that's a great definition of leadership. That's what a leader is here. That's what we're here for. That's what you're here for. Whether you're running a small business like me, whether you're an artist, whether you're a local politician, what matters is what you do for your cause and for the people that you are in charge of. I don't want to say in charge of, I would say in charge of leading, right? What do you do? How do you make the world better? That's what leadership is ultimately about. So look, there's so much we can learn from the Stoics about leadership. If you want a great PDF of the best Stoic lessons on leadership, go to dailystoic.com/leadership, and we'll give you 33 books that every leader should read, plus 5 things great leaders do. Just go to dailystoic.com/leadership.